guys, Kakimazeru here with another review. This time I'll be reviewing the TK11 Kamen Drive type Tridoron from Kamen Drive. This is the 11th and final entry in the Tridoron series, and as such it's Kamen Drive's final form. So this includes three things: Kamen Drive type Tridoron, and two tires, the type Tridoron tire and the People's Saber tire. So of course we'll start off with the figure. So looking at it, you can just see that this has come a long way since Type Speed, and it looks very different from any of his other forms. One of the big reasons for that is because this is actually a figure built from the ground up to be almost entirely new parts. The only thing that shares with any of the other figures is the drive driver, shift card holder, and the shift brace, but everything else is basically entirely new. And the reason for that is that unlike the other forms where Tridoron sends out the tire to drive and the suit is basically formed from within the shift brace, in this case, Tridoron actually becomes the suit itself. You can see a lot of design elements from Tridoron are in this suit. Starting off with the head, you can see that iconic spoiler that Tridoron has, as well as its white striping, the yellow headlights, or yellow eyes there, to make it stand out, the actual headlights of Tridoron right here, the guns up above it, and then the drive symbol. Going down the chest, you can see that it's just very much modeled after the front of Tridoron. You can see the white striping continues down here, going all the way down through the torso and through the legs, even within the tire. And they really made a nice touch of adding this bit of asymmetry, where you've got a red arm here and a black arm here to go along with the front left tire, which this represents, the one that sends out all of Drive's tires to him. And there's just a lot of nice paint detail here, with a heavy use of metallic silver, even once again using metallic silver on the belt, just like with Type Dead Heat. You can see it also has new knee guards, and even new feet. One of the really cool touches about this is that it has the exact same number of wheels as Tridoron, 6. 2 on the head, 1 on the right shoulder, 1 near the left arm, and then 2 on the feet. And that's a really cool touch. You can see that the tire here spins quite nicely, and it does look a lot like one of Tridoron's tires. The really cool thing is just how they engineered it and the way they designed it, so that whenever you spin it, it never breaks up the pattern. Now, articulation-wise, this guy's a little bit unique in terms of the Tridoron figures. Because it's a new mold, you've got some new articulation and some that's a little bit different. The head's pretty standard as it's on a ball joint, though because of the way this mask part is, it is kind of blocked by the tire. The right arm is pretty standard too, rotating all the way around, and similar to Type Wild, has a little socket that extends out to allow you to move the arm in and out. Has a bicep swivel, single joint elbow, then the wrist swivel, and the 2 finger joints. Where it gets interesting is the left arm, because this is a new joint system. If you look in here, you can actually see that it's a ball joint attached to a stem that's attached to a hinge, and this allows the arm to go all the way out like this. It's also got that standard bicep swivel and single joint elbow, as well as the wrist swivel and the finger joints. But there is one little catch in that, because of the way this is designed, this part doesn't rotate. So what it means is that it'll go back and forward only this much. So with that, you kind of have to get a little bit creative in terms of your posing, either using angles or focusing more on the right side. You'll also notice that on his forearm is a second tire joint, similar to the ones on Type Formula, and that will come into play with the use of the tires. For the waist, it's your standard rotation joint, The legs have that same kind of standard joint system, which is, your typical kind of pin swivel. Unfortunately, the way it's designed in the back doesn't allow much backwards movement. It's still got those single joint knees and the bicep swivel, though once again, unfortunately, because of the way it's designed, it will break up the stripes. And then ball joints for the feet. And the little feature is that the wheels on the feet do actually turn. Though it's a kind of a stiff joint, so you kind of have to just kind of move them yourselves, and it's not a free spinning joint. Though I imagine that with enough time it might wear down and become a little bit easier to turn on its own. As far as the back goes, that also has some Tridoron parts. As you can see, it does have the back part, which becomes the face of, or rather the front, of Tridoron Type Wild. And the rest of it is the standard car underbelly that you see on Drive's other forms. The interesting thing here is, because a lot of this is used with red plastic as opposed to black plastic, in this case a lot of this detail, with the exception of that of the torso, is actually painted black. Whereas for the other forms, with the exception of course of Type Wild, since it has a silver undersuit, that uses black plastic with the other colored parts being the paint. So it's kind of a reversal. So as far as the two tires go, the first one, of course, is the Type Tridoron tire, and as you can see, this is how the tire Kokon joint works for this figure. It's similar to Type Speed, but done in a different way, where the left arm is actually its own component. So for the Type Tridoron tire, you got right here, of course it has Type Tridoron written on it, and has that standard silver paint in the center. Then the second one is the People Saver tire, one of his combos. So this one is actually done in clear white, with silver in the center. You can see People Saver written on it. It has the three sirens done up in clear red. Now the other thing is that before actually switching them out, you can make use of this second joint by taking the People Saver tire and placing it on there. Just like so. But moreover, if you bring in the Justice Hunter, Mad Doctor, and Fire Braver tires, there's actually enough room. You can take them and place them each on the forearm itself. In a way that somewhat mimics the scenes where he's mixing the tires. It's not perfect since they're not actually jointed on, with the exception of the first one. And if not done correctly, they can fall off. But it is a pretty neat thing you can do. Though, let's get to the proper tire Kakimazeru. So to switch out the tires is, of course, like I showed you guys earlier. You take off the joint with the left arm, remove the tire, place on the People Saver tire, making sure that the screws are facing down, then replace the arms. And there you have Kamen Rider Drive Type Tridoron People Saver. So with this, as you can see, they actually engineered quite nicely where you actually have it so that the tire itself is smaller than your average tire, and they designed it so that the sirens don't actually stick out too much, so you can spin it quite freely without it knocking into this part down here. And if you have tire set first and tire set second, you can take the Justice Cage from the Justice Hunter tire and the Cure Quicker from the Mad Doctor tire and equip them to Type Tridoron. And doing this, you actually get a screen accurate Type Tridoron People Saver. While similar to last year's Kiwami Arms, you could do this, at any time for any of the other figures. This is the only case where it makes sense and it's canon to the show. Or, in other words, accurate. And I think it is cool, as it does help better get across that he's using the powers of the three tires. And that's kind of also the reason why they picked People Saver, as within the show, the ones he's used so far out of the potential 7 combos are Attack 1, 2, 3, People Saver, and Koji Genbar. Thing is that for Attack 1, 2, 3, that doesn't have any weapons, and for Koji Genbar, that involves the Drill Rumble from Rumble Dump, and the 10-ton weight from Rolling Gravity. The only problem with that being that, if you guys have been following my reviews, you know that the Rolling Gravity tire hasn't actually been released yet, and we don't know if it's ever going to be. That being said, it's still cool that you can do this, and it's definitely neat that for this you don't actually have to buy any of the other figures, you just have to buy the tire sets. And it's also kind of the thing with the articulation. In this formation, the attacking weapon, or the one that's more offensive, is used with the right arm, while the one that's more used for utility, in this case healing, is held with the left arm. So even though you don't get that much articulation, you've still got the potential for posability that makes sense, just because this isn't used in much of an attacking way. Now, besides that, there are also some other things you can do with Type Tridoron. But for those, we'll have to switch back to the normal version. As for the other things you can do, if you have the Type Formula figure, you can take the trailer hoe and of course equip him with it, so he can mimic his full big Tai Ho attacks. Though with this figure it has a little bit more articulation, so you can get in some better poses than Type Formula itself, arguably. Though it's perhaps a bit of a better idea to actually have it held with the right, or rather with the left hand. Just so that you don't have him turning his head and it hitting the tire. It is a little bit tricky just because of the limited articulation. Thankfully, you can do something like this. Though that's just something that you could do with any figure. One of the most unique things about this is the head. As since Drive is now combined with Tridoron, he's also combined with its AI, which is the Drive Driver, aka Mr. Belt. And so, they're able to switch consciousness. And that can be replicated with the toy. First, by taking the spoiler, lifting up and moving it forward a little bit, then gripping the two wheels on the sides of the head, and rotating them back to reveal a new set of eyes. then plugging them back into the holes on the sides of the heads. And there you have Drive Type Tridoron in Mr. Belt mode. And if you look in there, you can actually see that new pattern, which looks like, well, the face that you get when using the drive driver without any shift car in it. And it is very remarkable how they did that, and it's something you wouldn't expect, where instead of actually some part that rotates around, or like being two sets of eyes that rotate around, it's actually a second visor in there that flips down, or rather in this case flips up, to reveal the new set of eyes. And it works very well, as it's something that's non-intrusive, as you're actually using part of the design to activate the gimmick. And then you can switch them back by rotating the wheels forward. I mean, in the same way that the switching between the helmets of Drive Type Dead Heat and Dead Heat Mach was clever, this is similarly clever. As for Tire Kokan, he can use all the other tires, though for some it's a little bit odd. For example, if you were to take something like Funky Spike and equip it to him, while you can technically attach it to the body, it has to be done in a rather specific way. And it can be a little bit tricky. And even if you do, it's not going to spin. And that's the reason why they gave you the second joint, as there are only so many tires that will actually fit in this main joint. And the thing is that this is technically only for the Type Tridoron tire and any of his combo tires, so that's what this is for. Allows you to take any tire and place it on there and spin freely in place of one of the normal joints. And just for one last thing, I'll compare Type Tridoron with his three base forms. And so, as you can see, there really is a difference between the base forms, which are based on the modes of Tridoron, and Type Tridoron, which is drive combined with the car itself. Looking at them, you can see that each has that same black undersuit, or in Type Wild's case, silver, with some shared design elements, such as the knee pads, the feet designs, the hands, and the shin guards. Whereas with Type Tridoron itself, it's completely different, with the striping going down the front instead of the sides. New parts completely for the arms and legs. And even the back is different. It really is impressive that for the final form, like I said at the start, this figure was basically built from scratch. The one unfortunate thing is that he only includes this one tire. Though the reason is one I kind of explained, or rather showed, which is that out of the three combos he's used so far in the show, the only one you can properly replicate is People's Saver, because those are the only two weapons that are properly available in the line. Now, me personally, I do hope that somewhere down the line, either before the show ends, or in set that might get released after the show ends, that they release the rest of the tires, and especially the other tire Kakimazeru combos. And if you're wondering why I'm saying that weirdly like that, kinda because of the box itself, or because of this figure and the box it came in. As you can see here, it says Tire Kakimazeru, and that's kind of been a thing throughout Drive since Mach showed up, of these extended sounds being kinda corrupted and these weird spellings. But it can't really be helped, and it is a little bit easier to say than Kakimazeru, since it's, 4 syllables instead of 5. But as far as the figure itself goes, I would say that this is a great figure and a great way to end off the Tridoron series. It is very well designed, very nice and sleek, and to be honest, I really like the design, especially because it reminds me of Masked Rider Down liner form, which is another one of my favorite Rider final forms. So if you've been collecting the Tridoron series up to this point, or at least even, a lot of tires, then you owe it to yourself to buy this figure. Though it has some odd articulation, that doesn't really hinder it, you just have to kind of work with it. And, it has these cool gimmicks with the way that the tire can spin with a second joint, with the mode switching of the eyes. It is overall a fantastic figure, and one I can definitely recommend. Even if the SH Figuarts version is, who knows how much more accurate to the show, I would still recommend this figure just for how well it pulls off the look and pulls off the gimmicks. And so, with that being said, there is still the tire set formula on the way, and at this point, no more announced releases for the TKPB line have been made, but I am hoping they at least release one more set just to give us those missing tires. We'll have to see what happens, but for now, this is definitely a fantastic and very recommendable figure. So if you like this video, please leave a like, share, or comment. And you can check me out on Facebook at facebook.com/KRX50, where you can see a photo gallery of this. That should be coming up soon. And for now, this is KRX50, writing off.